Mr. President, I've come to the floor to express my appreciation for the ranking member of the Budget Committee, Senator Sessions, and to express many of the same concerns that I know he has articulated. One of the most basic responsibilities of any business or family or, frankly, of Congress itself is to pass a budget. But as he has pointed out, and has been pointed out time and time again, Congress has failed for more than 800 days to perform one of its most basic and fundamental responsibilities, and that is take up and pass a budget. Well, even though we haven't passed a budget and taken up a budget, that doesn't mean the spending has stopped. Indeed, the spending goes on in a reckless sort of way. We've spent $7.3 trillion since the last budget was passed and increased the national debt by $3.2 trillion. Now the Senate is considering a spending bill, an appropriation bill, before we've even passed a budget. It strikes me, Mr. President, that is exactly backwards. We should be passing and debating a budget first before we then take up appropriation bills. This is not the way Congress should operate. Now, taxpayers who might be watching this on C-SPAN or elsewhere or in the gallery may be asking themselves, well, how can Congress spend money without having a budget in place? Because we know that a budget is a very important form of self-discipline. It requires you to identify what are your priorities, what are the things you have to spend money on, what are things that you would like but you can put off till tomorrow or next year, and what are the things that you would like to have but you really can't afford. Well, the fact of the matter is Congress has been operating in an undisciplined and extravagant sort of way, not with our money, but with the taxpayers' money, and even worse, with the money that these young men and women who are sitting in front of me are going to have to pay, because our legacy to them will be debt, a burden of debt, which will limit their opportunity and their prosperity. Well, as Senator Sessions, our ranking member, has pointed out, this is not only a bad idea, this is not only bad policy, this is not only a breach with our precedent and policies, there is in fact a Budget Act rule that prohibits what is going on. That is spending money without a budget in place. It violates the Senate rules. Everybody knows that spending money without a budget in place is not a fiscally responsible way to act. Of course, I would say to the distinguished senator from South Dakota that we all support our military and our veterans, and that there's no greater responsibility of the federal government than to defend our citizens and make sure that the needs of our troops and veterans are met. But Congress should not, in the interest of doing something that is important, circumvent its own rules. Taxpayers deserve transparency. With transparency comes accountability. And without a budget, taxpayers get neither. So what are we left with? Well, we're told that August the 2nd, the Secretary of Treasury says we will run out of money. Well, rather than having a budget debated and voted on in front of the American people, where every American citizen could watch it, see what's going on, call our offices, express their concerns, either supporting that budget or saying, no, you ought to change it by offering an amendment. What we are given now by the President is secret negotiations behind closed doors, and told, eventually I assume, that it will be rolled out and we will be told, take it or leave it. August the 2nd, we're out of money. And you, Mr. Senator, Madam Senator, Madam Congressperson, you can't do your most fundamental job, and that is have a debate in the light of day in front of the American people. Unfortunately, the president's own personal engagement is frequently nothing more than personal attacks. His recent press conference has been full of name-calling and straw man attacks that are frankly beneath the dignity of the office of President of the United States. It's more like somebody, instead of being a commander-in-chief, it's more like he's decided, I'm going to be campaigner-in-chief. I'm not going to deal with the problem. I'm going to just look at winning the next election. And then we read yesterday that even in private, the president is throwing temper tantrums like he did yesterday and stomping out of the meeting at the White House, again, failing to show leadership. But the most cynical thing the president has done, the most cynical abdication of leadership that he has displayed so far, is his new threat to hold seniors, our veterans, and our troops hostage unless Congress will agree to job-killing tax increases immediately. This is shameful behavior. We all know that even if the August 2nd deadline passes without a deal, according to the Bipartisan Policy Center, the United States Treasury will still have enough revenue, about $172 billion, to pay for Social Security benefits, to pay for Medicaid and Medicare, to pay active duty military and other national priorities. Let me repeat, the only reason seniors and our troops will see their checks stop coming is if the Obama administration decides to make other spending a priority. And if the Obama administration chooses to hold our troops and seniors hostage just so they can raise taxes. You know, this is another amazing display of cynicism, or I guess the most charitable way I can say it, short-term memory. The president himself said last December the reason why we couldn't raise taxes or shouldn't raise taxes in a fragile economic recovery is because it would be bad for job creation. It would further discourage job creation at a time when we need jobs badly. Well, Mr. President, let me say just a word about tax increases and why this side of the aisle believes so strongly that tax increases are not the answer to our debt crisis. As one president famously said, quote, the last thing you want to do is raise taxes in the middle of a recession because it would just suck up, take more demand out of the economy, and put businesses further in the hole, close quote. Well, the president that said that was President Barack Obama back in 2009. The president makes our case for us. What is painfully apparent, Mr. President, is we are running out of time. And I'm not just talking about the August the 2nd deadline. Yesterday, Moody's Investor Services said it was reviewing the nation's top-notch AAA credit rating for a potential downgrade. If credit agencies downgrade our debt, it will cost more for us to borrow from the Chinese and our other creditors. And as we know, because of Federal Reserve policies, Federal Reserve has kept interest rates below historic norms. If those were to grow to historic norms because our debt's been downgraded by the credit agencies or for any other reason, the interest on our national debt alone will crowd out other priorities for our nation. It will make it less likely that we can afford to do what we need to do to defend our national security or to provide the very safety net that our Democratic colleagues claim to care so much about. We won't have the money to do it because we will not have acted responsibly in dealing with the deficit and the debt today. I urge my colleagues to heed these warnings and to join us in cutting spending and to get our debt under control. In the end, everyone will come out a winner if we accomplish that goal. This is not a Republican plan. This is not a Democratic plan. This is what is right and good and necessary for the United States of America.